Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Hi everyone, and welcome to Room by Room, the Home Organization Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We're champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element, with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Gabriella Joustra, coming to you from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's begin. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about elevating shared living through living room organization with Sara Losonci, who is the founder of Shelfie. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Do you mind introducing yourself in a bit more detail before we get started with the show?
Sure. My name is Sara, and I'm the founder of Shelfie, which is my professional home organizing business in New York City. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. And it's awesome and a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. How did you get started in this area?
Oh, this is my favorite question. So home organization and the interior space in general has always just been a natural hobby of mine. I spent a lot of time in Pinterest and cutting out magazines in my younger year when that was a thing. And essentially what happened is that I was let go from 2 jobs in less than a year and a half working in ad tech and advertising. And after it happened the second time, I was like, okay, this is just not working for me. And I need to find something different to do that makes me really happy, because it wasn't that I was bad at my other job. It was very obvious that it just wasn't a good fit for me. Basically, I decided I needed to find a new career path, and I started organizing for some of my friends just for free. One of my girlfriends was panicked because her mother-in-law was coming into town for a Jewish holiday, and her kitchen was really tiny, and her mother-in-law wanted to cook. And so I offered to help her clear out the kitchen to make it a better space for people to cook in. And from there, I spent a lot of time at the Container Store. And when I was in the Container Store one day, things kind of took off. I worked with them on one of their programs and then just started getting referrals through friends and family. But mostly it was a hobby I really loved to do, and kind of in a place where I needed to make money because I had no job anymore. And it just took off. It was terrifying, but it's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like both scary, but also like amazing that you were able to take something that you love doing and sort of organically grow it into something that you can do as a job for 10 years.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you.
And we're going to get to know you a bit better with a section we call Have You Met Sara? And the first thing we'd like to know is, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book I read recently was Malibu Rising. It's kind of a beach read chick flick book. It was just really good, really interesting. I haven't read a lot since college, actually, which is a very long time ago, but started reading a lot more recently. And that was an awesome book if you just need an easy read.
When I've got friends who don't read a lot and they're like, I really want to get into reading and I want to read this extremely thick, very prestigious book. And I'm like, why don't you start with something ezy that you'll enjoy?
No. Yeah, for sure. Like, I've read great self-help books, of course, over the years, but they don't keep my attention. That's what podcasts are for now.
Yeah, exactly. You can listen to someone. You don't even have to concentrate.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about a movie you've enjoyed recently?
I I mean, I like to rewatch my old movies. Did you ever see Uncle Buck?
No, what's it about?
Oh, it's like from the early 90s. I'm not going to tell you. Just go. It's with John Candy. Go watch it. It's a great movie. Go watch it. And we're rewatching Parenthood right now, which is like the most underrated primetime television show I think that was ever made. So some good recommendations for you and your listeners if anyone's trying to kill time. Uncle Buck and Parenthood.
Okay, thank you. I think watching, movies that you've seen before can be really, really good because, sometimes you don't want to do a lot of work with your brain. Sometimes you just need that rest. And old movies and TV shows are a great way to do it.
For sure. I'm huge on decompressing at the end of my work days. So all those things help.
And you did mention that, you listen to some podcasts. Any recommendations there?
You want to know? There's 2 podcasts that I listen to primarily. One is the You Up podcast, which is a dating podcast. I love that. And the other one is the Foster Sisters podcast, which I forgot actually what the exact name of it. I think it's called like the world's first podcast or something with Sarah and Aaron Foster. Very basic, very fun and easy listening. I use podcasts a lot to kind of keep myself occupied when I'm walking or doing things that I don't want to do, or at night to fall asleep and turn my brain off. I'm big on listening to kind of literally anything that is easy for me to follow along with that I enjoy. So You Up and the Foster Sisters podcast. Highly recommend.
Great. Thank you. And do you have a role model?
I thought about this. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't have a role. I don't even really know what a role model is anymore. I mean, there's definitely been significant people in my life who have impacted decisions that I make in terms of my career and even like living where I choose to live and just how I respond to challenging situations in general. But I don't really have a role model. Like I'm very big on like gut and intuition and just doing what makes me feel comfortable. So do you have a role model? That's like such a fun, it's like an interesting question.
It's funny. So I asked this question to all of our guests and everyone always says they always have most people say they have a role model. I don't have a role model.
I'm my own role model.
I don't know. I'm not my own role model. I certainly I don't want to follow what I'm doing.
No.
But I obviously look to other people and see how they do things and people influence me, as you were saying, but I don't think there's any like one person in particular or even like a certain number of people in particular. It's, I look to so many different people for so many different things. It's hard to say that there's just one person.
Yeah, like I would definitely say my group of friends that I've had around me since I was very young. They're the people I go to for everything. And I think we've collectively made good decisions for me up to this point. So I trust in them. But there isn't one particular person.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think it's interesting when people say they do have a role model, but it's also interesting when people say that they don't and why.
Yeah.
And have you, done any courses that have inspired you?
Honestly, no, not really. Courses that have inspired me, not lately. I am reading a book right now. I just started it, and I'm hoping that it will inspire me. And I'm actually on the hunt for some type of group where there's other small business owners or CEOs, but people who are not necessarily who do what I do, but who are just crushing it, making a ton of money, and just people who can inspire me. So I'm searching around right now and talking to different people about looking for some kind of mentor or just group of coaching or something like that that can bring some more inspiration to me. Because I think like it's really easy to get stale. Like once you start a business, it's very, very chaotic and it can carry on. The chaos can carry on and on, especially if you're working like I am still working in client homes and trying to kind of move off of doing that a little bit more and doing other things like this, for preparing for something like this, for example, or just other things. What do they say you're working in the business, but and more administrative things to grow Shelfie. So I think that as a small business owner, it's really easy to get stuck working all day, every day to try and get yourself on your feet and not take a step back and do something that will re-inspire you. And so it's funny you ask that, 'cause I'm actually like in the process of working to find some other ways to get myself motivated and inspired.
I mean, it sounds like you are, you know, maybe you haven't found it yet, but you are definitely working towards it. And it's funny, it seems like you're not just working towards finding a course that have inspired you, but also maybe finding a role model, a mentor. So maybe we'll check back with you.
Check with me. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just keep leaning on trusty old me.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for being honest, you know, and not just thinking up something.
No. I don't do that.
So we're going to move on to our main topic today. So it's living room organization. But before we get started, I do want to maybe start off with a few definitions. So how do you define home organization?
I think I would define home organization by creating storage solutions and systems that work for you and your family to eliminate mini stressors when it comes to managing your stuff in general.
Mm-hmm. And what about, like, you know, how does the living room factor into that, and how does shared living impact that?
Well, it impacts it a lot. So, for example, not being like, if you have a bunch of clutter all over the place and you can't find anything, I mean, that's just stressful in general. If nothing has a home, that can be really stressful. Just the other day, my boyfriend needed tape, like packing tape, and he can ask me where something is and instantly I can tell him, and he just needs to know one time, then he can always find it on his own. So I think like you create a lot of independence by organizing a shared space for each person that lives there. And then, of course, like just eliminating stress in general, right? Like having a system in place to make things really easy, to make your day run smoother. Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. And I'd also like to know, like, what is shared living? Like, you know, what kinds of groups of people are we talking about? What living situations?
Well, I think shared living is sharing a space with another human being or human beings where everyone needs to be able to function and maintain some sense of ease, and creating a space where everyone feels comfortable at home, and calling, you know, a house a home or an apartment a home. That can be a partner, that can be a roommate, that can be your family, it can be siblings. Like, I guess a pet counts if you want to include pets. But I think it's really important just to set yourself up and work with whomever you're living with so that everyone can just live nicely and exist in harmony, and ensure that as you go throughout your day, everything you need in order to get out the door is easy to find, it's easy to locate, and you're not really imposing on other people's day with your stuff and your clutter and chaos in general.
And I also really liked what you said with your boyfriend, where if you tell him where something is once, then he knows where it's going to be and he doesn't need to keep asking you for it. Because I think that's a really important aspect, which is that everyone can be together in the space and you're not relying on one person who knows where everything is or how to do everything.
Right. And like if you make a home for everything, and also beyond that, if the home that you create for your items and your stuff is easily accessible for anyone that needs to get to it, then everyone is more likely to put the thing back where it belongs. And if they don't, and they leave something out, then somebody else might come through and know where that goes and put it away in the right place so that everyone can find the things that they need at all times, even if some people are messier than others. Like that's often, excuse me, something we see is like where one person in the shared living space is a lot less tidy than another, or they have a harder time letting go of things than the other person. So I think managing, like part of organizing, and specifically in a space like a living room where it is a shared space, it's not just someone's bedroom or like one drawer dedicated to someone, like it eliminates a lot of chaos and conflict to have a home for everything. So just creating a system and a place where everyone knows where things are at all times. And even if someone is messier than the other, at least there's like a solution in place already that exists, because it can get chaotic managing a lot of stuff.
So it's about making sure that everyone in the home, you know, can contribute to not just the use, but also the tidying up.
Yes, 100%. And that's like a big part of sort of our process once we have a very specific process. And the part where we start to set up storage solutions is the part where we're making sure that anyone who needs to access something, they can access it, or like who uses what and how often is a big part of what we ask our clients. And then, you know, if somebody uses something more frequently than the other, the person who uses it more frequently than the other will always know where something is. So it eliminates stress, making cleanup easy, getting out of the house easy.
And so do you mind walking me through the process you actually go through with your clients?
Yeah, no problem. I'd love to.
And also, I think in particular, when you're having multiple people, because I find maybe sometimes it's one person who brings, you know, an organizer in, but it's not just for one person, it's for the whole family.
Right. So yeah, I mean, typically what we'll do is we ask our clients to focus in on the area that is driving them the most insane. It's usually a kitchen or their clothing closet. And then oftentimes families with small children, it's the entryway, right? Because we're talking about strollers or people who need to be like kids who are at the age now where they should be able to hang up their coat on their own, but they just don't because there isn't really a place to put it. And so, yeah, we make sure that whatever space we're working in, we ask lots of questions like who's coming through here? Is there a nanny? Is there a person who cleans? Is there a kid who should be able to reach their snacks and a kid who shouldn't be able to reach snacks on their own? Is there a roommate who has like, you know, who's like messier, and a roommate who is super tidy and they don't have a lot of stuff to manage? So all that we take into consideration, but the process that we go through is pretty much the same through and through. People will come to us with a whole list of spaces that they want to work on in their home, and we're happy to do all of it. But I think that it really helps just to kind of get them to zone in on the space that's driving them the most insane. And then from there, what we do is we come over, we take everything. I'll use well, I guess I should use the living room as the example. So if we're working in a living room, and nothing really has a home, or there's piles of blankets or clothes all over, or maybe books here and there, or office supplies, whatever it is, we first pull everything out of all of the storage solutions in the space. So something like the furniture, for example. So like a media unit. If the bookshelves are just like completely spilling over, we'll pull everything off of that. And then we sort it all and we categorize it. And then we have the client come and walk through every single category with us and tell us what stays and goes. So we would sort all the pens and pencils. We would sort all of the books. We just put all the categories of stuff side by side. We lay it out, and then one thing at a time, we say, okay, tell us from here what stays and goes. A lot of times, if we're talking about living rooms, it's like big piles of cords, which is like the worst for people. People hate those big boxes of wires. We take them all out. We untangle them. We wrap them up. Well, we may or may not rubber band them yet, depending on how much of it there is, but we make it neat. Even if it's not something that they're going to keep, it's so much easier to look at a bunch of cords neatly laid out and evaluate whether you want them than it is to open up a box of just like a tangled like spaghetti mess. So we make this part of the process really simple for our clients. And I think that's the most important step. Like it really and truly is. So after we do that, so we pull everything out, we sort it, we categorize it, we walk through purging process with our clients. And then from there, what we'll do is dedicate a home for everything based on functionality and accessibility. So like I said before, who's using what and how often. And then from there, we'll dedicate, I already said that, we dedicate a home. And then we measure out all the spaces that we have available to us to store things in. And typically we go and we shop for product. So things like bins, drawer dividers, labels, maybe you need a big basket to hold all of your blankets and pillows, or maybe you're not using any of it and it needs to go and live somewhere else. We bring all the product over and then we set up a mini store in the client's home. And then we start plugging our systems in. So adding drawer divider, maybe there's like a media unit and one drawer is just dedicated to cords. Now, drawers are really, I like, anytime you can have drawers somewhere, I recommend it. But a drawer is a place for things that you access frequently. So if we're talking about two roommates, for example, and they both work from home, there's probably cords all over the place all the time, right? Cell phone chargers, AirPod chargers, like just I'm looking around here right now. I've any and everything that is randomly laying around that is a cord. If it's something that they need access to frequently, then we'll round them up, we'll rubber band them, and then we'll put them, like ideally there's a drawer situation around within reach. We'll even ask, like, do you need to be able to reach it from the desk, or are you fine getting up, walking over here to this other area and getting it? But we like to use drawers for things that you want to be able to access immediately, or that are used more often than other stuff. And then we just ask lots of questions, and then based on those answers, we decide where things go. And then we're going to make sure it's really easy to maintain. That's the biggest thing. I swear by that through and through. I set clients up with systems that they can maintain. So of course, by the nature of organizing, things are going to end up looking aesthetically pleasing, but there's no point if the system breaks right when we leave. So we do the very best we can to ensure that anything that we put in place is really, really easy to maintain. And what I mean by easy to maintain is, are you like what I was saying before, cleanup is really easy, being able to access stuff. If there's a cell phone cord sitting out on the kitchen table or in the family room, and like at the end of the day, you're tidying up, you already know, okay, all I have to do is quickly roll this up, rubber band it, and put it back in its drawer. Does everybody do that? No, they don't. But at least if the cord goes in the drawer, then later maybe they'll take the time to wrap it up. And you don't even need to like get so specific all the time. I call that micro organizing. And a lot of people aren't going to maintain a system that involves more than one really simple step. So like the drop of a cord into a bin. Mm-hmm. A lot of this just depends on what storage space is available to us in somebody's home, right? So if they have a big giant cabinet that's really, really deep, and that's where we're storing cords, right? Like we don't want to put drawers inside of cabinets because now you have to open a cabinet and then open a drawer. We just want an open bin that sits there and you open the door and you just drop it in and then that's easy. You don't have to rubber band anything. So I just like to make sure that everything is really easy, and all that is because that is how I live. So if it's not easy, I'm not going to put it away. But that's our process. We pull everything out, we sort it, we categorize it, the client purges, we dedicate a home for everything, we shop for product to help us set up solutions, and then we come over, we plug all the product in and change people's lives at the end of the day.
And so we talked about cords a lot so far, and I think it's because this is, I think growing up, we didn't really have any cords. So I wasn't taught how to organize any cords because what cords did I have? I had a Game Boy and that was it.
Yeah, right. Remember Game Boy. Yes, exactly.
But nowadays cords are everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean, this entire studio is covered in cords. My entire home is covered in cords. And I could find a place to put all my, particularly phone chargers. But the fact of the matter is I'm probably going to go use that phone charger in less than a day. So is there any point in even putting my phone charger away?
Yes. Yes, there is. And I'll tell you why. So, okay. Well, let me back up. We have outlet, we try to keep one cell phone charger plugged in to an outlet next to the couch, and then one near the kitchen table. And then there's one by the entryway, which I don't really think we need, but that's fine. That's because if we have company over, everyone's always like, is there a place I can quickly plug my phone in? Or if we're sitting on the couch and your phone is dying, but you want access to your phone, you want that long cord. So I would say it's okay to have one plugged in an outlet, but in general, once you kind of start to let one thing slide, then you start to let other things slide. So if you're not really going to use it that often, just put it away. If you're going to use it frequently all the time, leave it out, but limit the amount that you do that. And also the less stuff you have in general, the easier it is to maintain all of that anyway. So people love to hold on to old AirPods. If they have the new AirPods that are wireless and they're holding on to their wire AirPods just in case they lose their wireless AirPods. The reality is the wire AirPods are probably not going to work with your phone anyway. Two, you're probably just going to go replace them as quickly as possible. You're not going to, it's just you have to be realistic and be really honest with yourself about it. But again, if you're using something frequently, it's okay to have it out. But if it's not being used that frequently, put it away. It's also just an eyesore. Things become an eyesore. So, yeah.
Reminds me, I need to put my wired earphones away.
Your what phones away?
My wired earphones away.
Oh yeah.
I know exactly where they are.
Throw them out. You don't need them.
Oh, I don't like the Bluetooth
AirPods?
ones. AirPods. No. So
why? They fall out?
I don't trust anything that goes that deep in my ear.
Okay, fine. I understand that. That's fair.
That's a me thing. That's not most people don't have that problem.
I get it. It's all good.
Do you have any tips for maybe with children, organizing with children, particularly that shared living area? I can imagine it gets very busy with toys and maybe schoolwork and things.
Yes, I have so many tips for people with children. My number one thing is don't feel like you have to buy children, kiddie furniture for the main space. Buy your normal buy normal furniture that you would buy to look nice in your space, right? And make sure that the furniture that you purchase will work with the items that you're keeping for your kids in the shared living space. You don't have to go out and buy colorful bins, like all these colors in the middle of your family room I'm just going to be honest, I hate when I see that. Like, I think it's ugly. I think it looks tacky. I think it's an eyesore. I think it's just like begging for kids to make an even bigger mess. Like, for example, I have a client who bought this big, beautiful piece of furniture for their main living space. And right in their family room or living room, it had two big cabinet doors that just opened. And it was awesome because it was easy for the kids to open, and there was big, deep storage space in it. And we could essentially have like a long, wide bin for all the Legos and all the magnet tiles. And we were able to use the inside of regular, nice, adult-looking furniture and just implement systems and solutions inside of it that are easy for kids to access. So pieces of furniture, again, with drawers. Awesome. Great idea. You can buy this stuff at like your basic stores, West Elm, Crate, all the like big, big box stores, whatever you call them, sell furniture that is kid friendly. Obviously, like you then become concerned about kids dinging things up and like moving, like, you don't want kids scratching the outside of the furniture. But like, I would say then, be wise about what you purchase. Sell it in a few years when it's not an issue anymore and buy something nicer. And nowadays there's a lot of nicer, higher end product that you can purchase that is still kid friendly and solves the problem. Like stuffed animals are a big thing. Like kids have so many stuffed animals and we see them everywhere. They're just piled and piled and piled. But you can get like a big, beautiful like basket or bin from a place like West Elm or order on Amazon that can just sort of hide it all. But the kid always knows where to go when they want this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then cleanup is also easy because anyone who walks, like you quickly just tuck things away, close it, and then nobody even sees it, right? Mm-hmm. And if you are organized about it behind closed doors, cleanup will be even easier, and then kids can find their stuff easier too. But I always say you don't have to buy kid furniture for a main living space. There's a lot of kid-friendly, durable stuff on the market that works and still looks nice in your family room.
Would you recommend taking your kids to when you're buying the furniture and just seeing if they can open drawers and stuff and if they can reach it, or you think you should be able to do it on your own?
You could, but I feel like if something is difficult for you to open, it's going to be difficult for your kid to open, right? But things that are like soft close are great for kids. So soft close doors and soft closed drawers are really, really easy. Something that like kind of smacks closed, no good. Things with adjustable shelves on the inside. If you're going to buy something with a cabinet, make sure there's pre-drilled holes on the insides of the furniture so you can adjust the height of shelves because, your 12-inch tall books aren't going to always fit on those like 10-inch tall shelves. But if you can move the shelf up or even take it out, now you have book storage. So it's just like thinking about things like that, and also thinking about the toys that the kids play with in that space. Like oftentimes we'll move toys from like a living room into their bedroom and say, okay, this is the place where this child has to play with this toy now. And I get that that's not realistic. Like kids are going to bring their stuff out anyway, but at least like at the end of the day, you can clean it up, put it back where it came from in the right place. So taking into consideration what kind of kid toys you're keeping in the family room that are allowing them to, like, that you say, okay, these are family room toys and these are bedroom toys. So
I'm guessing the messier toys stay in the bedroom.
Yeah, the small stuff, like teeny tiny plastic stuff. Because little kids are like we always have a joke, and maybe it's not that nice of a joke for people who actually do hoard, and we don't shame anyone, but like little kids are hoarders. They always have like a little tin box with a hinge lid that has the most random tiny little, like a Barbie hairbrush in it, and then those like it's like the most random stuff. It's like birthday party goodie bag stuff. We find it all the time. Tons of it everywhere. So this tiny stuff, or their own like private treasures, keep it in their room. And then you tell them like, this is your private space. You make it like fun for them and give them a sense of independence, you know?
I can tell you as a kid, I collected pigeon feathers.
Oh, where did you find so many pigeon feathers? Are there a lot of pigeon feathers where you grew up?
It was when we used to go on holiday in Europe, and they had those big plazas with the pigeons everywhere, and my parents hated it because pigeons are dirty. But
yeah,
I would
I lived in New York.
wade in and take the pigeon feathers and clean them. And
oh my God, that is so disgusting.
And now I would never do that. It's
never.
It's gross. No.
I'm thinking about New York City pigeons, which they say are rats with wings. So, oh my gosh. I did collect roly-polies, but I would keep them in a jar outside when I was really little. Yeah.
Yep. So kids do just, I think, collect things. They just have this little thing in their brain that just wants to, I guess it's part of growing up and learning.
Yeah, I collected a ton of stuff. It's actually really funny because when I think back to how much stuff I collected, it definitely all plays into what I do today. Like I collected troll dolls, bouncy balls, stickers, pogs, like all kinds of stuff. And then at one point I would just have too much stuff. When I got older, it was like, that was when I was like 6, 7, 8, 9. Then when I got older, 10, 11, 12, I still had all this stuff around me, but I hated the way it looked because it was a lot of clutter and made me feel just like chaotic. And I was like, if I want to keep all of my things and continue these collections, I have to sort of cut down on other stuff around me. I swear, this is like how I was thinking as a kid. So it all kind of played. This has been in me for a really long time, let me tell you. But I loved collecting stuff. My neighborhood growing up had a neighborhood garage sale weekend in the summer, and I was on my bike in every garage sale. It was like Chinatown. It was like the suburban version of Chinatown, and I would just buy junk and stuff because I love stuff, believe it or not. So. But then I had too much and I was like, this doesn't feel good because I also love beautiful spaces and interior design. And if I want my space to look like that, you have to cut back. So, or at least be organized. Yeah. It's all, there's so many examples of things I did as a child that play into where I am today.
Yeah.
And having this business.
So I want to dive a bit more into if you've got maybe, two people in a shared living area, maybe who have different cultural beliefs or different expectations. And the one I was thinking about is stuff like, having shoes on or off in a living space. And so where do you set up your shoes? How do you maybe come to a agreement about what's going to happen?
Oh my gosh, this is so funny because this is a huge thing in my apartment. Huge. So it's a very good question. I think the person for shoes is a great example. Put all the shoe storage you can get in the front of your apartment. Give yourself an easy way and an easy place to put your shoes in your entranceway. I like shoes off in the apartment. It's less, it used to be more of a dirty, like I didn't want this beautiful rug that we bought for our family room to get dirty because it was so expensive. And now it's more about germs too for me. I like shoes off. Anyone who comes to our apartment knows to take their shoes off at the door. It's kind of obnoxious. Sometimes I feel badly asking people to do it, honestly, but it's my home. Also, homes with kids, like little tiny kids crawling on the floor. When you think about it, it is kind of gross, right? You're dragging the bottom of your shoes from the street all over the floor, and then the kids are touching it and putting their hands in their mouths. My boyfriend loves to come into the apartment with his shoes on. And I think he forgets you know? So give people an easy place to put their shoes in the entryway and to keep it organized and to tuck it away. And then you're going to have more luck with that. In terms of a shared living space and different cultural, like what you grew up with culturally, no, I think it's really just sitting and having a conversation about it. Like, and the person who is like, I think when it's like, the person who cares more wins. Like, I know that sounds crazy and that's probably not so easy when you're dealing with like a roommate versus a partner, or maybe it's harder that way. I don't know. I kind of just feel like the person who cares more wins. Like, you can't really make a good like argument for why you're wearing your shoes in the house other than just like pure laziness or you're forgetting, which totally fine. So, you know, just reminders, or just honestly, I know my boyfriend walks around with his shoes when I'm not home. I don't see it. It's whatever, it is what it is. But when people come over, they know to take their shoes up at the front door and not to walk on the rug. It's the rug that I care about, according to them. So I don't know, like, I think you can have different cultural expectations if you just talk about it, and the person who cares more wins. If it's no sweat off your back to make an adjustment for somebody else's comfort, then just do it. Like, we're not all created equal in that way, right? This is what I say all the time. You care very much about something that I do not care very much about at all. And so it is no sweat for me to go and just fix that thing for you so that you're happy. And then guess what? When I care about something later, you're going to do the same for me. It's like, we don't all care about the exact same stuff. I don't know if that really answered your question, but the shoes on, shoes off thing is really it's not a fight, but it's like a point of contention in my apartment every day.
I feel like,
and I get it. Yeah.
I feel like there are probably other, examples of cultural differences, but I mean, growing up, the shoes on, shoes off thing was such a visible thing for me.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, so that's why I came up with that question.
Did you grow up in a place where your shoes came off before you came in the house, or other way?
So I'm half Chinese, so the Chinese side is no shoes in the house. But in my house, much to everyone's shock, it was do whatever you want. So shoes on, shoes off, do what, we didn't have slippers. So when I had friends from school coming over, Chinese friends or Asian friends, they're like, what? You don't take your shoes off? I feel weird. So, and still, I still shock my Asian friends. They come around, I'm like, yeah, you can take your shoes off if you want.
If you want, yeah. We go into people's homes every single day and immediately our shoes come off. Like, most of the time, especially if it's like wet and snowy out, our shoes are off in the hallway. That's just like something I put into practice. It's like a rule at Shelfie. When you go into someone's home, you take your shoes off before you go in, period. And people just like that. They respect that. And it's a professional thing for us. But again, like, you can make an argument for anything. Honestly, the only argument I actually do think you can make for keeping your shoes on in the house is that you're building immunity. It's good for the immune system to have some germs around. Listen, I haven't done the research on this. I haven't heard of anyone who got like deathly ill because someone was wearing their shoes in the house all the time. I was like sick with a bad cold 2 weeks ago, so I cared more like as I was like getting better about it. It's like mostly usually a cleanliness thing, and lately was a germ thing for me. Like, you spend a lot of money on nice stuff, you don't want it getting all mucked up with mud and dirt and dust. Yeah. And then I think there are ways to culturally express yourself in a shared space, right? Using things like coffee table books. Not a lot of tchotchke. I don't like tchotchkes around, but if there's like an item that is meaningful to you, like a photograph, for example, is an easy thing to compromise on. If you and a roommate that you're living with both have photos that you want on display, or maybe it's some sort of, souvenir that your dead grandfather got you on his trip to France or whatever. There are ways to display those things so that they don't look cluttery. Buy all matching photo frames. And then it just looks like, it doesn't matter what's in the frame, they all match. So there's cohesion there. Mm-hmm. When it comes to little tchotchkes, put things in like display boxes. This stuff is very easy to order and find on Amazon, and then style it. Make it look nice. Stack a couple of books together and then put your frame on top of that. You can look this all up on Pinterest and on the internet on how to style easily. But I think those are other ways to sort of keep things looking organized and neat and eliminating a lot of visual clutter, but still maintaining any type of personality in a space or in a shared space or individual preferences in a space,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And how can we integrate something like sustainable living into a shared living room?
So you can reuse existing organizing products that you already have. The other way is to have less stuff, but better quality items so that they last longer. Mm-hmm. This rug that I'm talking about in my family room, for example, I know the difference between having a really nice plush rug and having a not so nice rug. The family room is a high traffic space. And so we invested in a really nice rug, but I know it's going to last. It is the most money I've ever paid for a rug in my entire life. I'm going to tell you that. But we did go to like the outlet version of the store where we bought it instead of the actual store. And it's a really high quality rug that you can just tell when you walk into the space. It looks expensive, right? But it's going to last. So buying fewer, better things that I've seen that all over Instagram. Fewer, better things. I totally think that's a great idea. It's okay to invest a little bit of money in stuff, even if you're renting, even if you're sharing the space. I don't think anyone ever said, wish I didn't spend this much money on this great, beautiful looking media unit at the end of the day. Like if you split the cost with a roommate or a partner, and if things don't work out in the end, one person sells their half to the other, or they sell it and then you buy new. Again, that's another way to just be sustainable, is selling your stuff. Somebody else can. There's tons of websites now and apps. They make it so easy to sell your used furniture on. So I think that's a really good way. And not having a lot of tiny pieces of furniture around, just maybe things that are a little bit bigger. Obviously, it depends on your space, but and just being really intentional about what you buy. Mm-hmm. Those are all ways that you can incorporate sustainability.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss before we move on to our next section?
No, I think that's good. That's great.
So we're going to move on to our practices and habits section.
Sure.
And so I'd like to know, what is a practice that you do to maintain your living room?
Everything has a home. Mm-hmm. Everything, the candle, every vase. That's the kind of stuff that we really keep in there. Like decks of cards, games, everything has a very specific home. And so again, I go back to being able to find things when you need them, and then being able to put things away when you're done using them really easily is really important, because it's a shared space. We spend a lot of time sitting on the couch watching TV, sitting at the coffee table, like, on the computer. We have company and entertain a bit. So when they're over, if we need to get things quickly when there's chaos around us, I just think like being organized in shared spaces kind of helps to calm the chaos. It allows you to move through the chaos kind of nicely, I would say, when you can find things. So a home for everything. And
as far as like, putting things away, is there like Do you do it every day, or is it just as you go throughout your day? As you use something, you put it away?
I'm going to be really, really straight up and honest with you. My boyfriend is the one who walks around and just picks things up and puts them away. I am a messy, believe it or not. I am a messy person, but that is why I do what I do. Having a home for everything allows me to be able to clean up or to be able to have somebody else who is more tidy than me clean up, and then I can find my stuff later. I don't expect him to put my clothes and all of that stuff away. I'm not talking about that, but like if, again, he was packaging up something to ship out and like the tape was in the right place. I try to put stuff away pretty immediately when I use it just because I don't want to like drive him nuts. But I do tend to be more messy, which is why at the end of the day, like if I'm tidying up or if he is tidying up, or it used to be when I lived alone at the end of like the week when it would get really bad in my apartment, like cleaning up was just so easy because things were actually quite organized behind closed doors and like inside of drawers and inside of closets. So my whole thing is always like, I'd rather stuff be out and all over the place than shoving it behind closed doors, forgetting it exists, and then not being able to see it. That's what happens to me. If I don't see something, then I forget that it exists. So that's why I make sure that I'm really organized, like in cabinets, in drawers, again, media units, because that's like a main piece of furniture in a family room. If when I open that drawer, I can see everything inside of it, like nothing's hidden, then I'm golden. So if I go to clean up at the end of the day, I know where the pens go. I know where the tape goes. I know where our cords go. You should see the cord system I have set up here. I'd love to talk about cords. Took me all day one day, but I did it. So just, again, being able to quickly find things and having a home for everything is really the way that I think we are able to just maintain like the craziness day to day coming and going in the apartment and like everyone's different activities and things that they do. It's just giving everything a home.
Okay. That's good to know, because I think that my partner and I are both the messy person in the relationship, which is to say we're both just messy.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is just like you don't want it. Like, I'm not saying that everyone's lazy, but everyone has a little bit of laziness in them. And like, I don't want to spend an extra second fighting with the coat closet just to shove my coat in there. So I'm not going to put it away every time, right? But if there's a hook near the front of the door that just makes it easy, maybe like, sure, at the end of a couple of days, we have like a lot of bags and like scarves and coats on the hooks. But like then we'll take the time when we feel like it to go and maybe just keep one coat, put the rest in the closet. And that's when you're okay taking the extra like couple of minutes or seconds even just to put stuff away versus doing it in the moment when you're taking everything off when you get home because you don't feel like doing that. And so if you can sort of avoid a headache when you don't feel like doing it, but knowing that when you're ready, it's going to be easy enough, then I think it's a lot easier to maintain systems in that sense.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions from the audience today. Our first question is, do you have any tips for organizing kids' toys in the living room?
I have really good tips for that, but I'm going to always go back to the first step in our process, which is to pull everything out, go through your kids' toys, get rid of the things that they're not using anymore, and then categorize all of those items. So, for example, we see a lot of magnet tiles. We see a lot of Barbie dolls. We see a lot of Legos, and we see a lot of games. Pull everything out, sort it, categorize it, decide which toys you want the kid to play with in the family room or in the living room. And then the other thing that's really, really important is once you decide what's staying in there, measure out the storage space you already have. So if you have a media unit, for example, and it has 2 cabinet doors and inside of each cabinet, there's a shelf and then 2 drawers, ask yourself, okay, the bottom drawer I will dedicate to my kids' toys, but their own, like, you want to make it really easy to clean everything up. So like, for example, we wouldn't put more than one category of like larger items in a drawer, for example. So like Barbie dolls are really good. Well, it all depends on the size of the drawer. But if it's something that you can walk through, like Barbie dolls, I keep going back to Barbie dolls because there's a lot of little pieces and parts that come with Barbie dolls. Even if you're just throwing the dolls in a drawer and then you measure the drawer and you go and you buy some type of bin that is open, so nothing with a lid on it, and you set it inside the drawer, and that's where all the little like Barbie shoes and hair accessories and all that stuff for the specific to Barbies can go in that little container. And that way you don't have to line up every Barbie doll every time you open the drawer to clean up. It's just really easy. Open the drawer, throw it in. And even if the little accessories don't make it into the bin, that's fine. When your kid goes to play with this specific category of toy, they know this is the drawer where it can be found in. So I think that's just like a really easy solution, is to categorize the kid toys and then dedicate one place and one place only for that category. And don't create two different homes for one category of stuff, because that's when things get really confusing for anyone who's coming through to clean up, even if it's your kid. You just want to make sure everything in that category fits in this home. So measure out the drawers and then think about what makes sense. Something else for kid toys, books. People go out and they buy bookshelves for books, and they forget that these shelves, they don't fit these big, tall books, right? These big, wide books that people have. So measure your biggest book that your kid has, and then go to the store and make sure that if you're going to go purchase some type of bookshelf for your kid and it's going to live in the family room, make sure that those shelves are either adjustable or they will fit both the depth and the height of your largest kid book. Otherwise, again, you're in the position where you're storing the big books in one place, small books in another, and then all the books end up in both places. And that's sort of when things start to fall apart.
I've been caught out before.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've been caught out before. I've got the height of the book, okay, but the width of the book, it sticks out. And I'm like, oh, that's so annoying. I hate that.
It's so annoying, like the front to back for sure. And like, in that case, I mean, I don't know. With kids' books, you don't want to use their books as like coffee table decor, right? But even if the depth of the book doesn't fit, like, even when you lay it on its side versus up and down, it's still going to hang off the side of the shelf. That's so annoying. So just buy things that fit what your kid has, essentially. That's a big mistake people make all the time, is they just see something that looks cute and then they bring it home and nothing really fits inside of it. So, and then store things inside of clear bins, but put the clear bins behind the cabinet doors so that clear bins can look really cluttered when you have them like all sitting out on a shelf, even though it's organized, and the bins should all match and be the same height, depth, and width and shape. Once you purchase all of that, then unless everything inside the bin is about like kind of like the same color, shape, and size, which like rarely happens to kid stuff, it's still going to look cluttered. So if keep your clear bins behind closed doors, but in a place where once the kid opens the door or the cabinet, whatever it is, they can see everything. And if you can't do that, then buy closed bins, things you can't see through, and then label it. But that's hard for kids. They can't see through it. But then you just label it and teach them how to read. That's oversimplifying things. I had a client once who had to store everything, like all the little tiny toys, just slightly too high for the kid to reach, because their kid would take a bin, a lot of kids do this, dump it all out on the floor, decide they don't want to play with it, and then they get to another bin, dump that, and it was like all this tiny little toys. So those were in clear bins, but there was only 4 of them. all the bins matched. They all fit nicely on the shelf. Everything got a label so the kid could see it and it looked nice, but they couldn't take it and dump it out and then move on to the next thing, dump that out. So it honestly just depends like on how much of stuff you have and where you're putting it. But measure your spaces, pay close attention to your kid toys. Like actually imagine yourself taking these, like their biggest item and putting it away and then thinking about what that would fit. I hope that's helpful.
So thank you so much for talking with me today. If our listeners want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Shelfie NYC. So that's S like Sam, H like Henry, E like Eric, L like Lucy, F like Frank, I like India, E like Eric, and NYC, New York City. Shelfie NYC. And you can also go to my website, which is shelfienyc.com.
Great. Thank you. And you're very practiced with spelling it out for everyone.
Yes. I can't stand when people give out their contact information and then I'm like, wait, what did they say? And then I have to rewind. And so I just like to be very,
thank you.
Very, you got it.
But if you do need that, once again, it's actually in our show notes. So don't worry about rewinding. You can just find it down below. Thank you so much for talking to me today. It was really great to learn some, shared living tips because, I think most people live with other people and need to know these things.
Yeah, for sure. We need to keep our heads on straight. So thank you so much for having me. It was really nice chatting with you today.
Yeah, thank you. You've been listening to Room by Room, produced by the Home Organization Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes like this from across 10 life management perspectives can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your smart devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it so we can grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at ho.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Gabriella Joustra. Thanks for tuning in.